Now, I've been asked to moderate today to dive into all of the questions that you probably have about representation for first-timers. But before we dive into that first question, I would love to kind of go down the line here and have you introduce yourselves. Obviously, name what you do, and if you work at a company, what is that company, and who are you looking for in representation?
Hi. Great job. Oh, I love audience participation. This is fantastic. I'm Olivia Mascheroni. I work at Verve Talent and Literary Agency with this fabulous person right here. She's the best dressed in the building, though. Don't let anything fool you. I work in our Verve Ventures team and in our motion picture lit team, which means that I work in independent finance and sales. So one of my jobs is to build independent movies.
Hey everybody, happy to be here. My name is Davina Hefflin. I work at Verve, and I'm in the TV lit department, so I rep writers and directors in TV specifically.
I'm Yasmin Morris. I kind of operate as an independent manager, but I work through a co-op called Sandstone Artists, and mostly represent writers and directors. And my interests are always kind of spanning all sorts of genre, but I really love music-driven stuff. Like, that's really my vibe.
Hey everybody, I'm Zack Zucker. I'm a literary manager at a company called Bellevue, where I work with both writers and directors across film and TV.
Thank you so much. What is the difference, for those that don't know, what's the difference between an agent and a manager? And anyone. We don't have to keep going down the line, but.
Sure, I'll start. So from my perspective, there is a lot of overlap, but there are some kind of cornerstones in each. So when I think of an agent, I think of someone whose job it is to technically procure work for their clients. Technically, managers can't, although in reality there's gray. But an agent procures work, an agent negotiates deals, an agent covers the town in terms of knowing all the jobs that are open. The job of a manager is different depending on the company. Some managers are producer managers, some managers came from the agency ranks, some managers, like the team at Bellevue, were more creative-centric managers. But in general, I would say the job of the manager is to develop, to run the day-to-day business for their clients, and to help strategize. That being said, these days everyone kind of does a little bit of everything, and everyone feel free to disagree, but I think that's where I kind of draw the line.
Yeah, I agree completely. I also like to think of it as an agent kind of has that macro view, because we're able to see a lot of the information coming in and out. So we're able to be helpful in, like, okay, what's the dream of your career and what are the steps taken to get there? And the manager is there through each and every step to get there.
Wonderful. Would you agree? Yeah, great.
That sounds
We
good.
love that. Fantastic. Why did you get into talent management or being an agent?
I could take it. I think for me, I was working as an exec at Gunpowder and Sky for like 3 or 4 years. And I think it just felt like really limiting as an exec to be only kind of working with a certain level of client or, talent, and not being able to really develop with them. You're developing just on a project per project basis. And I really like the idea of like working with someone and kind of tapping into their potential like outside of just this one project and really kind of building a brand in a way. So that's why I kind of gravitated towards management. But right now I find myself in a position where I can kind of do both. So like I said, I operate independently as a manager, but I also have a full-time job working with a showrunner with a deal at Universal. So it gives me like the ability to kind of do both and open doors in other directions.
Fantastic.
I used to be an executive at Blumhouse, and then I was the head of development production at The Blacklist, and then I was an independent producer, and Verve said, hey, you should come meet here. And I said, why? Do you have a movie for me? And they said, no, we want you to work here. And I was like, what? I'm not an agent. All my friends told me I'd be good as an agent. I didn't listen to them for like 10 years, and now I'm an agent, and I'm very good at it. So.
Um,
I avoided it for a really long time, guys. We You do therapy after this.
So I started at an agency right after my master's program. I studied screenwriting. I needed a job really, really bad. I had no intentions of staying at an agency until I actually fell in love with it, just for that reason of being able to work with multiple creatives and really dig in and be in the trenches and be draft in, draft out. I absolutely love doing things like that. And when I looked up, I didn't see enough agents who looked like me. So I saw a need there, and that was it. The rest is history. I dove in and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I guess for me it'd be a similar answer in the sense of there's something I really enjoy about working with people as opposed to projects, and helping careers grow. I like that a lot, and I was an independent producer as well before moving into representation. And there's something nice about, not that it's a stable job by any means, but there's a little bit more stability than being an indie producer, which is, for anyone out here doing it, it's a grind.
And, Davina, you touched on this a little with the macro lens, but the day-to-day of your jobs, can you talk about the kind of the number of clients you have and how you manage or represent them and what that day-to-day looks like?
I think on a micro scale, it's a very personal thing. It's like building a relationship with someone. So I think the day-to-day is understanding their work, where they are, and that next immediate step of where they're trying to be. And then I think the gig itself, I think at an agent level, we move information, right? We get it, and then we move it, and we see who benefits from it. That boils down to just a lot of talking and meeting and knowing people and understanding the information they're holding and being able to move that appropriately.
Yeah. Well, okay. Move information.
I mean,
we love. Yeah.
I
okay.
could add
Great.
to-
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah. I
add
love
to
it.
it,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
It's a conversation. I think it's pretty much like that as a manager as well. I think it's just kind of like you're really trying to strategize and like build and plan and like, figure out. I mean, I think one of the questions is like, how often do you talk to like your person and stuff, your clients? And, like sometimes it depends on the season, but it could be every day, once a week. Like it just really depends on like where they're at, what the work that they're doing. If they're in a room or something, then they're kind of like off the grid for a bit. But yeah, just it's like constant. It feels like you're just in constant preparation mode for the next thing and just keeping your eyes and ears to the ground of where, your clients should be meeting or who's looking for what and all sorts of things like that. So
Yeah, I think in my mind it's like keeping one eye on the client and making sure they're excited about whatever it is they're working on and feeling like they're being supported and making progress. And then the other eye is on the industry, right? And I kind of said this is an agent's job earlier, but there's overlap. So I think these days it is on managers as well to get a sense of where the jobs are out there and also certainly what the marketplace is looking for. I can do my job better when I'm at the early stage of developing an idea with a client if I have a sense of who I could sell that to or what we could use this script for. So yeah, I think it's kind of 50-50 in terms of working hand in hand with clients during the day and then meeting with producers, agents, studio executives to ultimately connect the dots to get my clients' work.
Great. How do you choose your clients? Like, what does that initial conversation look like? Are you spotting them out at festivals? Is it word of mouth, referrals? How are you choosing your clients?
Always and always. I think we look everywhere. I think the festival circuit and the competitions and word of mouth and referrals and meeting people on the streets and in the planes. And I think it starts with just a conversation of creativity. I think the first thing that needs to click is like, do we understand your creativity and what that looks like? Because it's different for every single creative. And then we start to look at material to see, okay, how are you on the page? What are your director cuts like? And then we get into the conversation of what does the future look like? And am I useful for you in your time right now to project your career forward?
I feel like it's a relationship. Like sometimes you're pursuing someone, but if they don't want to be in a relationship with you, you should not continue to pursue them. Sometimes people come to us who you would never expect. Like I work with a lot of financiers and production companies, and they're people who had whole careers in other verticals. And there you go. I'd love to be in Hollywood now. I'd love to do this, but they maybe have less information than people who have been doing this for a long time, who maybe want to do a career pivot. So you have to be able to listen, have a flexible mindset constantly. My goal, I think, whenever I represent someone is to really hear them and to understand what they want to be, and then to understand if I can be the best person to help them do that. If they maybe can't hear what I'm saying, or I can't hear what they're saying, it's not a good fit. And that's okay. You're not going to be the right person for everyone. I think that a lot of people, when they first get a rep, assume that they should sort of be led around by their agent or manager, and they go, well, you've been doing this, so you should call the shots, right? That's not correct. When you're the creative and you, sorry, this is maybe not working. Can you hear me? Sorry, okay. If you get a first if you can't, you need to be able to say to them, they work for you. You take 10% of your paycheck, they work for you. So you need to go in and say, hey, here are the ideas I have about you're the CEO of your company. That's your career. You're the COO. You're the operational people. We get the things done, but you have to have the vision. So you have to be able to say, hey, here are my ideas about the first 3, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, etc. Do those sound totally ridiculous to you? Like what do you think? So it's a conversation, but you do have to have an idea going in. You can't say, hey, I want to work and I want to be Steven Spielberg. That's not a vision.
Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, and in terms of where we're finding clients, whatever you can think of, I've probably signed someone through that method, unless you're thinking of like showing up unannounced in a costume at our office, which please don't do that. But, query letters, yes. Contests, yes. Festivals, film school, finding a really cool viral short film online. Biggest one is referrals. And not just referrals from big producers, but I think an important component of breaking in is networking, which is not always easy, admittedly. But, if you can make friends with someone who works on a TV show and then they can refer you to the showrunner, that's helpful. If you work in post-production and you get in the room with someone who might be a conduit to a rep or someone who can give you a job, that's helpful. All the above, really.
Yeah, I will just add, the talent and potential clients can really come from anywhere. When I was living in Chicago, I'm from Chicago, and I worked in casting for many years, and I was a local casting assistant for Empire in its first season. And I was on a train going to a J. Cole concert because it was that Dollar in a Dream tour where he released the location an hour before. So me and my friend were on the train heading over there, and we were on the train with Kiki Lane, and we were just chatting. And she was like, I'm an actress. I'm like, oh, I work in casting. She's like, come to my plays and stuff like that. So just kind of spotting people even just randomly and leading with who you are and just really being proud of that is you never really know who you might be chatting with.
Now, diving into kind of what Zach was saying, query letters. What should they write? What does that look like? What's a good one? What's a bad one? What should be sent with it?
Yeah, sure. I can expand on that. So I think the first thing you got to understand is query letters, it's a volume game. You might write 100 and get 1 or 2 responses. So you got to cast a wide net. The most effective ones have commonalities in the format. First and foremost, it's really about the log line and the concept and one singular piece of material. I wouldn't advise querying with, here are my 8 things that I've written. This is a perfect festival for this, right? You're out here promoting ideally one project that is the calling card for you. Same thing for query letters. And also I would include a little bit about who you are and any sort of accomplishments, whether it's, I won this screenplay contest. I got into this festival. I worked for this production company. Like, that's all helpful. Or if you don't have that, then lean on your background, whatever it is. You know, I lived a whole nother life in this other career, and I served in the military. I come from a certain background, whatever it is. You know, I said earlier, we rep people, not projects, right? So I think giving someone a sense that you're treating this seriously and you're not just a hobbyist, but, you know, how do you communicate that, hey, I'm taking this, I'm a professional. But then also to be blunt, it really comes down to the log line and whether or not it's interesting to the person on the other side of the table.
Got it. Should we be talking about, like, if, you know, creatives are reaching out, should we be talking about scale of the budget as well and hopes for it? Or is it literally just the, like, creative associated with it?
I mean, I think the creative is what is going to at least pique my interest more, and then I can ask more questions about the nitty-gritty stuff.
I would say if I got a query letter from you and I'm like, oh, this is a really interesting logline, you're like, hey, I'm a first-time filmmaker. I'm looking for a budget of $15 million. I would be like, I'm not going to read this. There are things that you as a first-time feature or first-time pilot, director, whatever it is that you're pursuing, you don't know them. That's okay. You don't need to know everything. What you need to do is say to me, hey, I did the best job that I could with prepping what is here right now, which is a really good script. You should read this really good script, and then let's have a conversation. That's your job. That's the job of the query letter.
Fantastic. Something you were talking about, Olivia, expectations. What are fair and unfair expectations to have when signing on with new representation? Like, yes, the relationship looks like it's going to work. You talked about a little bit like the 3, 6, 9 months, you're out, what that looks like. But what are, fair and unfair expectations?
It depends on where you are in your career. If you're at the beginning of your career, I think it's very important that you are, you have good communication, that you reach out, that you ask questions. Obviously, when you're doing things for the first time, your reps will prep you. Ask for anything that you don't know. So let's say, I'm making this up, you have a great short film, it's doing the rounds, you wrote a script, or your writing partner wrote a script, and you're going to make the feature version of this great short film, and we're going to start getting you a producer. We're going to start getting you cast. We're going to start getting you financiers. You might not know how to take those meetings. So we'll tell you how to present yourself, what to talk about, what to highlight, what not to highlight. We'll have practice sessions, things like that. Fine. Great. Wonderful. If you have questions, I can't read your mind, so you need to tell me what is still confusing and what you're like, hey, I'm really nervous about this. I'm really concerned. Open communication, the most important thing early on. That remains important as you evolve in your career. Keep logs of all the people that you meet with. So like, even if it's just a Google sheet, what day did you meet with this person? What was their name? What company did they work at? As all of us know, that person in 2 years is probably not going to work at that company. Their name will remain the same, but that company will be a different place that they work. What did you talk about? Did you pitch them certain projects? Any notes that you can take in any meetings, very helpful. Keep track of those. If you ever change reps or get new reps, you'll want to send them that and be like, hey, here are all the people that I've met with. It will be very helpful for us if we're talking to people about you and selling you around town. Constantly come up with new material. Just because you have a sense of, okay, I'm a writer, I wrote this great script, Zack's really interested, Zack is going around selling you as a writer. While he's doing that and while you're taking those general meetings, you should be writing your next script. You should not be waiting for that script to get made. So your job is to make creative material. Our job is to sell the creative material and get you jobs off of it. But we can't do anything if you have not continued to make things, continue to write things, continue to make shorts, whatever it is you're doing, ask us for help. But we can't sell you as a writer or a director if you're not actually doing those things.
Davina, Yasmin, anything to add to that for like expectation-wise, unfair or fair?
Yeah, I think the main expectation is it's a team for a reason. It takes all hands on deck, especially in today's market. It's going to take the entire village working to make it happen. Because you're out networking and you meet somebody big, I have no idea that you're there. Email us, call us, let us know so that we can reach out or just like what Olivia said, staying in your process. The only way I can guarantee you're going to be better next year than you were this year is if you stayed in your process. So I think understanding that it's a full team, those meetings that you go out to, emailing your team afterwards and saying, hey, here goes the complete rundown of the meeting. Here's what I learned, here's what they learned, and here's how I felt about it. Because we go back to that information, and ultimately it's that information that helps us course what the next decision is.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think it's just being mindful of the fact that your one manager isn't just they're your one manager, but you're not their one client. So they have like a bunch of other people that they're doing this for, times like 20, 30, 40, 50, you know. So I think it's also just kind of being mindful of that, that they're just one person, even though they might have a team behind them. And there's something else that you said that I wanted to say. No, I totally forgot. It's okay. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Fantastic. Zach, yeah.
I agree with all that. Yeah.
Great. Love
That's
it. Now, proof is obviously created because everyone here has a proof of concept that they're trying to do something else with, whether that's feature or pilot. Probably one of those two, right? Is anyone else doing anything else from that? But no. Okay, great. Maybe. What does that look like? Is it interesting? Does it happen a lot for representation to come on board at this point in someone's career when they're kind of going from proof to full? How likely is it that you'll take someone on for that journey? Do you like to already see that they've done something with longer format, or is there use, to find people at this festival and kind of come on with them now?
I mean, I can give a specific example. I just came from set 2 weeks ago from a filmmaker who I signed off of a proof of concept. So there you go. That was a referral to me from an executive who I like, who had seen the short at a festival, thought it was great. I watched it, thought it was great. Met with the filmmaker, who demonstrated a vision for what the feature version would look like, had a script that was, along the way. It wasn't entirely finished, but there was enough in there that I could see the vision. So helped the filmmaker develop the rest of the script, got it set up at an agency with an indie department who was super helpful. So then we kind of worked hand in hand where I took it to my contacts, they took it to their contacts, and we ended up connecting the dots, finding 2 producing companies and production companies and a financier. And yeah, he's in post right now on it. So it works. I mean, it's hard, for everyone that works, there's another that doesn't, but it's absolutely viable.
That's awesome. Congrats.
I also think absolutely, to answer your question, because I like to think of Hollywood as an engine, and the only way the engine works if we're constantly bringing in the next generation and rearing them up and training them and getting them ready. So thanks guys. So it's necessary. And I think that's what needs to be protected at all times, because other than that, if we don't have that, then we're going to have like 90-year-olds still trying to direct and so out of touch with reality. We want to tell the current stories that keep us alive and change our lives, right? And the only way to do that is to keep pulling from new creatives. So I think absolutely. Is it harder? Yes, it is. But if you're up for the challenge, we're up for the challenge, and we can make it happen too.
Fantastic. Now, let's talk about networking a little. Every panel talks about networking, but let's talk about it. How important is it that, in addition, and you've touched on this a little, in addition to kind of the growth mindset and the engine of like getting new talent in and working with them and shopping them around, how important is the talents network here? When either it's like, the colleagues they've met at film festivals that they're growing with, or the people that they've come out of film school with, or who they worked on this proof concept with. How important is it that they're continuing to network to grow their own network that they come back to you with and be like, hey, I think I found a producer for this, or hey, I think I want to attach, like if they're a director, I want to attach this writer to help me with this, versus you guys coming on and being like, I have a producer for this, or I have a writer for this.
I mean, I love it. Definitely helps my job a lot easier. And I always, similarly to what Olivia said, like my network is your network. And so let's just share our resources and like Davina said, we're a team, and like we're trying to we have the same goals. So if you have ideas or you have relationships that you can bring to the table, like I'm always welcome to hear them for sure.
I think if you're a writer, it's important because you can give your scripts to directors that you admire. You never know if someone's going to like take off, get signed, etc. If you're a director, it's even more important. None of these jobs are singular jobs. Making movies, making content is a team sport. Network for your team. Find your teammates. Figure out who those people are. They can change. You don't have to commit to people. You're not getting married. It's okay. But figure out who you want to be working with at any given point in your career. Try to reach for people who are smarter than you are, that are more informed than you are, that have different perspectives than you do. Like diversify, figure out if you're always looking at the problem in the right way. Maybe there's another way you can be addressing it. But find people who support your vision, help you be the most creative and the most problem solving that you can be.
Yeah. And just one other thing to add to that. I felt like I always like to share even my tactics for how I like to like network with my clients. Like I'm like, if there's something that you saw that you really liked, or episode of television, like who made it, like try to find out who that person is and reach out to them and just say, look, I really loved your work. I think it was really dope. Like that's meaningful, and that can open up a door in a conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that actually, feeds really well into what I was about to say, which is, you can have the best agent and the best manager in town. A submission means more when it's coming from someone you have a personal relationship with versus something cold, right? And so I know it's hard to network, but when you can call your manager, call your agent and say, hey, I was at this coffee shop, and I ran into the showrunner and I pitched them on my idea and they wanted to read it, you have a greater chance, obviously, right, of that leading to a successful outcome than if, your agent just calls a showrunner being like, hey, I know you don't know this person, but can you read the script? I mean, it might work. It does sometimes, right? But you're just setting yourself up for greater odds of success if you're proactive in your own networking.
And how do you add in to say you meet a showrunner at a coffee shop and, you get their email or their number and you text them over, that log line, or you text them over what you were talking about. Should we as creatives bring in our manager or agent to the conversation at all to follow up, to continue that with their manager or agent? Like what does that dynamic look like?
Definitely. Bring us in as early as possible, because you don't have to bug them, right? We could be the bad guy. It's my job to bug them, and I like bugging them. It's amazing to me. Having that initial reach out, and then again, us working as a team. So you reach out, you send it, I follow up to get the information. That's us working in unison for the common goal.
Cool.
If you don't have reps yet who can be evil for you, then what I recommend is, rather than you continue with Zack's example of you run into the showrunner that you really like at a coffee shop and you're working on something. Don't say, hey, can I send you my thing? I would really like if you read it and came on as producer. Oh my God, it would be so amazing. Oh my God. Say, hey, I really love your work. I really respect what you've done. I'm working on something right now and I'm having trouble figuring out something. Can I send it to you and get your advice? People love giving advice.
I think to expand on that, networking, if you break it down into steps, you're not rushing to the end goal of them reading your material. You're just trying to get to the next interaction and the next interaction. And then eventually you have enough interactions, you've built a relationship with them, then you can breach it, because now they feel more confident and comfortable in reading your work and taking a look at it. So I think that's a common mistake that I see. It's like, hey, oh my God, I love you. I'm so excited. Can you read this? Just asking for simple advice. I think that in our position, we owe that, because somebody did it for us. Somebody answered our questions, took us under their wing, taught us the game. I would love the opportunity to be able to sit down with new people and say, hey, here goes the game. Here it goes here. So I think that that's a really important note.
And for the logistics of it, what does looping you in look like? Is that eventually they agree to read it and it's a CC later on where we're CCing you into the conversation? Or is it we're telling you that we have this side email going on and you're reaching out to their representation on the side being like, hey, I heard, my person met your person. This is what's going on right now. Let me know if you need anything from me. What does that look like?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of a little bit of both in a way. Like an intro loop in is just like nice just to have that chain of like, you know, I can say, hey, like, nice to meet you, great. And then like, yeah, reach out separately to their team. And so we're all on the same page.
You can also always like BCCS if you want to just be like, hey, thanks for reading my script, BCCing your reps, and then we can literally forward that email to their reps and be like, hey, excited to see what so and so thinks of this. Let us know. 2 weeks later, hey, how you doing? Really getting positive response on this. Want to keep you in the conversation. You interested?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for answering that. What advice do you have for the emerging talent sitting in the room today?
Wait,
Or-
Olivia just said something that
Yeah.
is great
Yeah.
advice, which is
Do it.
the best way to get someone to say yes in Hollywood is to make them think that someone else is already saying yes.
Yes.
But
It's really
like, don't just
effective.
straight up lie. Like, ideally, just have something to ground
yeah.
that in,
Oh, yeah.
but be strategic.
Absolutely.
Now, what advice do you have for filmmakers here reaching out for representation? I know we talked a little bit about this already with, the relationship building and going out and query letters and things like that. But is there anything else from an advice perspective you would recommend?
Okay. So I'm mostly looking at you guys and going, who wants to make their first movie? So that's where I'm coming from in this piece of advice. I want to watch your short. I want your short to be a very good example of what the movie is that you want to make. Ideally, that movie is a genre movie. Ideally, because genre movies are very easy to make in a sub $5 million category and still be scary and exciting and also not require a huge movie star to be in them. See Talk to Me, see Paranormal Activity, etc. That being said, some of you are like, I am a comedy person. I will never not be a comedy person. Please don't make me not be a comedy person. That's totally fine. Still want your proof of concept to be really fucking funny, really good. And then we talk about building that out. Ideally, you have already written the script or your writing partner's already written the script. Please don't come see me if you do not have a script of some kind, but also be open to notes on the script. Then build from there, but that's what I'm looking for specifically. I can't do anything for you if you do not have a sample of your work. If you come to me and you go, hey, I really want to be a screenwriter, and I'm like, great, how many things have you written? Well, I'm sort of done with half of one thing. Okay. Please go back. Please write maybe 5 more things because the first one is bad. I promise you it's bad. And then keep going from there. And maybe on your 7th feature, I want to read it. But not right now. For directing, it's harder because obviously, as you know, it's expensive to make a short. Like, it's not like, hey, I can just do this on my computer at home. I mean, you can, but like that's very specific. So one short is fine. You might be like, oh, this didn't turn out the way I wanted. And it might be a great lesson for you to be like, hey, this is how I would change it. Maybe you can make a second one. Maybe you just go and going, hey, this is what I did, but also this is how this is slightly different from my vision and what it will be. So if it's still a good example, great. Totally fine.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, y'all have already probably passed the first litmus test, just given the nature of this festival, which is your short should be a proof of concept for your feature. Or at the very least, as you were saying, demonstrate a singularity of voice so that I watch the short and I get what you want to do with your feature. And trust me, when financiers look at it, they're thinking the same thing, right? And they have a high bar. I think you have to have an understanding of where the marketplace is at, which doesn't mean chasing the marketplace, but it means you have to understand indie film right now is in a challenging position, right? Home video market has been zeroed out. Theatrical, for the most part, has been zeroed out or close to it. Streamers aren't picking up a ton. Now, that's not to say it's doom and gloom, but it means financiers have a higher bar of what they're willing to put their money into, right? And they need to see some path to getting that money back. Doesn't mean that you have to do horror. Doesn't mean that you can't do drama. But it does mean that if you're going to do some of the less obviously commercial genres or directions, you have to be prepared to defend against that, right? So What does that mean? Well, maybe you can make the argument, hey, this has, even though I'm a first-time filmmaker and this is going to be a low budget, this has an Oscar-worthy role, and that's how we're going to sell this film. We're going to find some TV actor or someone, this is a bad example because her first film was great, but The Substance, right? With Demi Moore, right? She hasn't been on the scene for a while. We're going to bring her back and blah, right? That's a coherent argument to make to overcome the genre limitations. That's just one microcosm, one example, but you can extrapolate from there.
Yeah, coming from the TV side of things, it's got to be on the page. Like, I've cried while I've read scripts before. Like, monumental moving of emotion. And that could be in any genre. I could laugh, I could be scared, I could feel like I am that character. Whatever it is, get it on the page and make sure that it's your best. And it's probably not your first thing. It's probably not your second thing. But again, so long as you stay in your process, you're going to get there. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received was my first piece of advice when I entered the industry, which is, it may not be the most talented people you see up on the stage. It's the people that didn't give up. It's the people that kept at it and just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And eventually timing catches up to you and you get the yes instead of the no.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I would say, yeah, that was like kind of similar to like the first piece of advice I got when I moved out here is just like perseverance. Like, you just have to persevere, and that's like the key to like being successful. And yeah, I just agree with everything everybody said.
You guys don't understand how many passes we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The best agents, the best managers, 9 times out of 10 for us doing our jobs well, it's still a pass. So never give up, and understand that you may take it to 20 people and only get that one yes, and it might be the 21st person that says yes. That's all you need.
And what does it look like when you sign on with representation? What's that first month look like? What should creatives be getting together material-wise to get ready? What kind of updates should they provide you so that you kind of have a good foundation to start from?
At Verve, we talk about what's your first 100 days with us look like. We're very big on that. So your first 100 days with us is you come in, you meet with the team. We talk about what the strategy is for you for the next year and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We talk about who you have relationships with already, who you don't, the types of people that we want you to have relationships with, what we're building for you, what jobs we're focusing on for you, how we're exposing you to different verticals of the marketplace. So Zack talked about the independent market. Also, how are we exposing you to the studio space or production companies that have studio deals? And then what are we building for you while we're still pursuing jobs for you? Helping you to take general meetings, making you practice anything that you have questions about, prepping you for each of those individual meetings. Hey, this person really, they worked on this. They really responded to these kinds of things. Like, they're very focused on this, any of that information that we can give you. But that's usually what that looks like. From you, what we need is like updated pieces of material from you, probably a short paragraph bio, like we mentioned for the query letters. If you've done your query letters well, you'll be prepared for that. And basically just, again, like, who are all of the people that you do know? And then from your perspective, I think also like it's about having a conversation of, hey, from my perspective, I'd love to meet with, I'm making this up, like 21 Laps and Atomic Monster and Blumhouse and these people, because I think that they do X. Is that true? Or do I just think that they do X because I'm looking at the media output that they have? What are they looking for? Why or why not would they be good partners for me? Ask your reps that. They'll tell you what's going on with those companies right now because we have all the most updated mandates. We know what they're doing, what they're focusing on. I still have people call me and they say, oh, because Blumhouse is going to make this as a sub $5 million movie by a first-time filmmaker. And I was like, have you been watching their movies for the past year? They don't do that anymore. But people still think that they do, which is totally fine. That's completely understandable. But that's our job, is to educate you guys about what everyone is and why we're introducing them to you and what benefit that will be to you. Your time is valuable. If you're not taking meetings, you should be writing, you should be working on things. So we're only going to set you meetings with people that we think this person will help you advance your career by knowing them.
I've been finding that, when we go to festivals or out and about in Los Angeles, there's a lot of VCs and private equity money coming into film. From an independent landscape, say you're networking and you meet a VC who thought they'd check out this film festival. You have a film in the fest. They saw it. And they're like, send me some stuff over and maybe we'll talk about it. What does it look like to involve representation in financing talks when it's not studios or when it's independent money that they don't have a lot of experience, but they're interested?
So let's say any of you coming out of this festival or any festival you go to get independent finance interest from someone to make your project. You can call an agency, a management company that you'd like to work with and say, hey, I've gotten this offer in. Like, wait till you get the offer. Don't be like, this person said they're interested. Cool. Interest is free. Wait until you get the offer letter. And then call and say, hey, I have this project. This person is interested in financing X amount for X thing. I'd love to send you guys the materials and see if you're interested in helping me put this together. We will take that call. We absolutely will. And you should do that because at the end of the day, you shouldn't work with anyone you don't want to work with, obviously on a representation side. But also for 10%, you can make sure they're not going to get totally fucking fleeced, which is important. You also want to work with people that are adults, and a lot of VCs, they have money, but they have no idea what they're doing. That's okay. We can help you make sure that they know what they're doing.
Right. I'm finding this a lot. I remember last year I was at a festival and I met a VC who had funded, I was playing a trailer at a short film festival, who had funded a first film for $1 million, no questions asked. All he wanted was him and his wife to go to set. And I was like, what does that conversation even look like? You
Can
know,
I
like
have his number?
What?
Can I have his number?
yeah. And you know, if you're
That number will be emailed to you after the session.
yeah, Jonathan. Yeah. No, it's a very common name. I'm not giving it away. But if you're having those conversations, does representation help you find legal? Like if you're not even finding a producer for your project yet, so they'll come in maybe through your agency and find the legal with you to help you draft up the contract?
So one of the things, I'm going to circle back, we talked about what are the differences between agents and managers. Agencies are allowed, we are licensed by the state of California to do deals on your behalf. So generally speaking, we are the ones that make the deals. Managers can definitely also do this, but technically it's the agency's job. So you can bring stuff into us and say, hey, also half the attorneys I work with have no idea how to read a contract for independent finance films. That's okay. It's not their job most of the time. So it's becoming more their job because it's becoming more frequent. But when you get that offer letter, you can be like, hey, this is what they sent me. It might be totally ridiculous. It might not be. We can figure that out for you. Also, have any of you heard of Producers United? Do you guys know about this conversation that's happening right now? Okay, totally fine that you haven't. Thank you for that one person that nodded. So producing credits are being cracked down upon by a group of producers who are what we call career producers. I'm sure many of you in watching movies all of your life have been like, there are a lot of producers on this movie. I wonder what all these people did to be a producer on this movie. That's going to become less and less frequent. So financiers previously have asked for producer credits. They're not really supposed to do that. They're asking for EP credits, asking for producer credits, asking to take credit from a different pool of money than they have access to in success of the movie. These are all things that we can help you navigate. But if you do ever get an offer and you're like, I have no fucking clue how to read this and I have no idea if this is fair or not and I don't understand, we can definitely help you.
Also, just one piece of advice I found, it's easiest amongst the three types of reps, lawyer, agent, manager. I found it's easiest to get a lawyer, especially if there is an offer in front of you. And so my suggestion would be go to a lawyer first and find a lawyer, to your point, that has a background in working in indie film. I've had horror experiences where someone's like, hey, I found the biggest lawyer on the planet, and they have no idea how to and they're negotiating like it's a $200 million studio movie and it's a nightmare. So find someone who knows how to do that. And then don't be afraid to then say, hey, lawyer, can you please call the agents and managers and use your contact network to try to get me in? We'll take that call.
That's a fun one. I like that. I've never heard that before. My last question before we open it up to audience questions. So like, if you have a question, get it ready. I forgot. It's here. It was just like right here. Oh, how do you choose, like, say you're sending out query letters, that's great, and you cast a wide net. How do you choose the company? Like, what should you be looking at when looking at the company where that agent or manager is at? Can we talk a little bit about what a co-op is and how that format works? Is it different? You know, that kind of landscape I'd love to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, well, to answer like the co-op question, so Sandstone has been around for about a year, so it's like pretty new, like post strike, and it was sort of just put together by a couple of previous agents and just wanting to create an environment for people to continue to represent, but without they basically didn't have the ability to provide a salary, right? But we all sort of pool our resources together. So while I don't get a salary from Sandstone, I get most of my commissions. I split my commissions 80-20 with the rest of the company. But it kind of, for me, works because it relieves some of that pressure to sustain this infrastructure of like assistants and like just the building, lights, water, all the things like I have to pay for out of like, you know, my commissions or whatever. So it just gives me a little bit more flexibility, essentially. Like that's pretty much what the co-op is.
And then, yeah, for the different companies you work for, when you're looking online at, you know, as a creative perspective, when you're looking online at the different companies and you're trying to figure out, are they for me? How do you evaluate that? What kind of questions from a filmmaker perspective should we be asking ourselves before maybe we even reach out?
I could talk a little bit about how I chose the agency I'm at.
Yeah, great.
That's a better way to do that.
Yeah. Agencies are different depending on where you're at. We know we got the big 3 agencies, right? Those are the big guys, big and powerful. It's like being at a big college where you've got 100 students plus per class, right? Versus me, I went to Chapman, there were 11 of us, right? So my first thought whenever I was deciding, well, what kind of agency do I want to be involved in? I just knew and understood myself enough to know that I didn't want to get lost in a sauce anywhere, and I wanted to be small, contained, but mighty. So I chose the smaller agencies. I started at the Gersh agency before I moved over to the Verve agency, and I was consistent in keeping a smaller team with big impact. I think that that's a really good first step to make from a creative side, is deciding, well, what type of brand and what type of size am I going to feel comfortable in? And then from there, you can go in and start to do your research on who actually works there. I can tell you at Verve, there is no 2 agents alike. We are all vastly different. I come from a creative background. Some people come from like statistics and stuff. I can't even spell that word. We're all different. From there, it's just deciding, okay, well, who's the right person for me and who's going to understand my material, understand my goals in my career, and who I'm just quite frankly going to jive with, because, again, it builds into a relationship. If that is somebody at a big 3 and that is like, no, that's my playground and I love that and that's where I want to thrive in, then you know you're where to aim. Right? If you know, no, I want a more intimate setting and I want to feel more one-on-one attention and I'm aiming after that relationship, then you know to go for a more smaller place. And then from there, you just plug in.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, I think like, you know, I gravitate towards a lot of like multi-hyphenates and stuff. And I think like if you're the type of person that really kind of sees yourself like doing things even outside of film and television, like commercial work or you know, branded stuff, things like that, then looking at companies that have maybe some representation on that side of things, so they can like, you know, pull in those teammates. Like they might have a lit team, but they also have people that work in branding or work in sports or work in video games or like whatever it is. So yeah, just to add.
Yeah, and on the management side, I said something earlier that there are different types of managers, and there are pros and cons to working with all of those different types. And so when you're in the room with someone, I wouldn't be afraid to ask, you know, how do you run your business? What is your day like? What are your strengths and weaknesses, and where do you like to emphasize, you know, put your focus in? Are you more of a development person? Are you more of a producer person, you know, et cetera? And, you know, look, realistically, for most people, they're not going to have multiple offers, right, at the same time. So it's really just kind of a binary of, do I vibe with you, yes or no, right? But don't be afraid to say no, especially if you're still kind of early on in that process. There might be a better fit out there. But I would say, A, just make sure you vibe with them creatively and strategically, but then also B, I think you want to find someone, especially early in your career, who's in what I would call the outgoing call business. Now, this could be someone at a big shop, a small shop, independent, but you want to find someone who you get the sense that they're at a point in their career where they are proactively calling people and saying, I have someone you want to meet. There are super successful people who are brilliant at what they do, but they're not necessarily the right fit for someone because most of their business is they're getting incoming calls about their A-list clients. So, try to find someone you feel like is going to help you identify the right fits and targets, right, in terms of financiers, talent packaging, all that sort of thing for your project, and then is actually going to pick up the phone and start making those calls for you.
That's a really good point. All of you should remember that. One thing, and Zack already touched on this, one of the questions I think people often ask when they're sitting down with potential reps is they say, well, what can you do for me? And sorry, everyone, we lie. People can lie to you. You might be meeting with someone who maybe your favorite actor is also repped at that agency or management company. They'll say, I'll introduce you to your favorite actor. They don't have you have no way of following up on that. There's no receipt you're going to get. It's not, no one's going to be like, oh, we promised this, so we'll deliver this. It's better to ask them, to Zach's point, how do you run your business? What is your day like? What is your favorite thing about being a rep? What are some things that you can point to recently that you've done that you're really excited about? What do you think is the most challenging thing about working in the business right now? Ask them things like that. Don't ask them what they can do for you. Ask them how they think about what they're going to do for you.
Beautiful. I'm going to open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions? Will you
Go to the
come to our
microphone.
microphone, please? Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi. How close should I be? This seems good. So we're here. We have a proof of concept short. We wrote it together. I directed it, and Mechi is writing the feature version. And I'm just curious, how it works with a team like that is sort of doing two different things and has two different trajectories. Would you recommend looking for representation from the same team if we are, a team or at the same company, or how would that breakdown look? Or is it just sort of, that's the question.
Are you guys going to keep working together for the rest of your lives?
I mean, I think we have different ideas for what our personal paths are, but we want to continue to be collaborators.
Okay, then you don't have to be repped at the same place.
Okay.
I think that you can do whatever. You can definitely be repped at the same place. I'm not saying no, but you don't need to present yourselves as a team. You can go, hey, I'm taking a solo meeting as a director, and they can take a solo meeting as a writer, and that is okay.
And if we're I guess in the interest of a singular project, you just sort of present it from I'm coming at it from the director's point of view, and then there's a writer path, and those are just different.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Great, thank you.
And contrary to common belief, we do work very kindly with agents.
Others.
So if you're repped at different places, we're all friends.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was imagining. Is it one big team and other people's management can work with other teams?
We, especially in the independent finance and sales space, we work with every other agency except one who doesn't like to work with us. We will work with them. They don't like to work with others. Ask me later who that is if you want a one-on-one situation. I'm not going to say it right now. But we believe in the power of collaboration and a big team. So if you came to me and you were like, Olivia, I'm repped at CAA, but we want your help because we need X financier or whatever. I'm not going to be like, fuck you, you're at CAA. I'm going to call my friends and be like, hey, I heard you guys need money. We have some money, let's do it.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions from our audience? Yeah, come on up to our mic.
So, hello. I have a quick question about the viral shorts. I heard someone mention viral shorts. So, if we have a short that's gone viral, how would you like that to be presented to you in the form of an inquiry? Like in a letter, like with a link or an email? Like, how would you prefer to receive something like that? Please.
Yeah, I think you can just say, hey, I directed the short. It's got X million views on YouTube. It was a Vimeo staff pick, short of the week, whatever. Yeah, that's definitely just something to straight up say in the query.
Cool. By like email or by snail mail? Like, how would you prefer to receive something like that?
Definitely not snail mail. No, I would say.
I'm just curious, you never know.
Yeah, email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Any other audience questions? Yeah, come on up. You can make a line even. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, come on up. Hello.
Hello. I am a writer-director, and I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering about, I've been trying to get some meetings to find some reps. What kind of a detriment is it to be working under an O1 visa to you, or do you prefer to find someone before they start that legal process, or they're already all set, or if it's not a green card, it's nothing? I'm a bit curious about that.
We don't care if you're talented.
We'll figure it out.
We love working with Canadian people.
we are founded by Canadians, so we love Canadians at Verve.
Go Verve. All right, thank you.
Also at a company founded by Canadians. So.
Woo! Get that telefilm money, baby.
Hello.
Thank you so much for this. It's been really illuminating. My question is like in terms of on the writing side, just like having written, having scripts that you can share versus like actual projects that have been completed, like you can share the film or short film. What's the ratio that you're looking for or anything in particular in terms of that?
So you are a writer, and you would like to continue being a writer.
Yeah, I guess I just mean like if I have like, 100 scripts, but none of them have been made, or if I have like 3 scripts and all of them have been made, is there a different weight to that?
No. You just have a big portfolio. With a portfolio that big, I think your biggest struggle is going to be determining which script to pull out at which time. That's going to take just listening to the person on the other end to see what they're looking for and asking those specific questions. But all that means is that you have a full portfolio, which is fantastic. Because let me tell you, some people come in with one script and that's it, and that's all they got. And then we have to build that portfolio. But just understanding when to bring up which project, if it's relevant in the conversation, that's going to be the thing to focus on.
Thank you.
Hello. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Andrea. So I mostly write TV, but also a bunch of different things. I know for queries for different things, for like some books, they're like send the first whatever. For children's books, it's like send the whole book, like all these different things. So I know when I've submitted before, they usually send like to a lit agent, like permission to read it. I know some people don't like links. So is there a good way to send something to give some samples, or do we just do the log line and maybe like a short concept and like wait for you all before we send some of the script, or is that the
You
best
bring
way?
up a very important point, which is for liability purposes, most reps and producers will delete emails that have attachments to them. So do not actually include the script in your query. Basically what you're doing is you're saying, hey, do I have permission to send you the script? Do you want to read it? If so, great. And then if someone says yes, they'll likely send you a release form for you to sign. Definitely sign that. That's standard. And then you can send the script.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Aneri, and I'm a writer-actor, and I write mostly comedy dramas based on my personal life, and then I act in them. Newer to acting, and my latest script, I produced like a short trailer for it, and I have the script. One of the things I get honestly insecure about is like, because I'm newer to the acting side, and I'm pitching this as something that's like, hey, here's the comedy series, and here's me acting in it. What are ways that I can prove that I'm capable and the right person to be making that particular project in the query?
Yeah, I think don't be married to having to do both. I think that you take your wins where you can get your wins, and then your wins start to play off of each other. So you may not get to act in your first script that gets out, and that's okay. It may be the next one that it happens in. But I think just saying it plainly in there, hey, this is who I am. I'm a writer and I'm an actor, and I write things that I act in, and this is what I want to do. Here goes an example of a log line, an idea that I'm working on, and here goes a list of the projects that I've done in the previous sense. That's enough. That way we can that gives us a perfect snapshot of who you are as a creative.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Super
And
helpful.
I would just say, yeah, we can kind of determine, like, based on reading your stuff or, like, watching you in it, like, what path we want to kind of, like, pursue. Like, where do you feel like you're the strongest at? And, like, where do you feel like you can use some improvement? And we'll figure out where to go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hi. This is lower than. Can you hear me? Okay. So hi, I'm Emily. I am a cinematographer, actually. So I'm very curious about what it's like to look for an agent for the first time from the below the line sort of standpoint, because I understand there's a query letter sort of thing that goes into the directing and screenwriting side. So very curious if anyone has thoughts on that.
I mean, I don't represent below the line, so I don't have as much info on it. But I mean, I can say, at least when I've looked for potential, like, directors, I've definitely looked below the line, and there are specific reps that represent below the line talent. So kind of keeping an eye out for that, like looking for those specific reps. And, I think it's kind of like similar when it comes to even just the navigating of using your network and, like, talking to other, cinematographers or below the line people, and, like, where are they repped at, and, like, what is the best way to kind of, like, approach some of those representatives.
I would say networking for you is more important even than the other previous categories we've been talking about. I feel like you will get opportunities hanging out with your friends who are like, hey, I'm making my first pilot, short, feature, etc. And they're like, I really want you to do it because you already worked with me and you know how I work. That being said, there are specific people at different management companies and agencies who rep cinematographers. Obviously, like, there's a long list of them. So I think it's about you looking at their client bases and saying, okay, who has people that are more on my level, that are female, like, who, is, doing the stuff that I want to be doing. Talking to all those people is important, and also just constantly updating, like, your work and your reel.
And if you can, go to cinematography related film festivals. So, like, Menaki Brothers is becoming pretty big with sponsors like Panavision and Airy, and Camerimage Film Festival. All of the agents are sent there for below the line. And so you'll end up meeting them in close quarters, and you can kind of continue the conversations from there.
Thank you, guys.
From a DP perspective, but yeah. Hi.
Hey. How's it going? Thank you. I just had a question about.
That was great.
Thanks. I'm gone.
Oh, yeah.
I have several scripts, and one of them, previously, I had the, like, lookbook or the pitch deck on a website, and I was contacted by a producer, and it didn't really go anywhere, but it felt good to be contacted. Is that frowned upon from a management and agent standpoint, or is it okay to put that kind of material out to the public?
Are you directing this?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. That's the
Okay.
idea.
So you're a writer-director.
Right.
Say that.
I'm a writer-director.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's not frowned upon for the lookbook to be on your website. I think
Okay.
that, like, freely downloading the script might be a little bit. I wouldn't really recommend that.
Yeah, no.
But otherwise, no, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think you're doing a great job with that. That's a
Okay.
great idea.
Cool. Thanks.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, guys. Thank you for coming out, answering our questions. Most of mine already got answered, so thank you for the thoughtful moderation. I did come up with one while I was in line, though. So I'm a writer, and I have a TV show that I brought to proof. And I guess my question is, for people who have a proof of concept, who have a sizzle reel or something like that, when you see that, what is something to you guys that is a hallmark of a project that seems like it's ready to take the next step that might pique your interest?
That's a good question. So in TV, we don't see many sizzles. We see more on spec. You wrote the script or you have a pitch for it. So if you take the extra step to make a sizzle, number one, congratulations. That's big. That's not easy to do. But I think the approach is still the same. How are the characters? How is the world? Does the story move me? I think that those are the basic kind of buckets that you want to hit in your work, and then from there, especially in the game of TV, you're banking on your work. And if it's on the page, if it's in the reel, it's gonna be there, and people are gonna respond to that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm a student, and I think a lot of students who are about ready to graduate and want to be a writer kind of have a hard time figuring out like what do we do, or like what our steps are, because I think a lot of students again just really struggle with like figuring out basically what I just said, which is like I know what I want to do, but how do I get to X, Y, and Z? What is the biggest piece of advice you could give to students or graduates?
Please apply to the Verve mailroom. Thank you so much.
We are hiring.
So here's the thing, and I'm very serious about this. So many students have said to me when I was a student, after I was a student, I don't want to work at an agency. It seems really scary, and I don't want to work for mean people, and this is awful. Here's the thing. One day, you will have an agent as a writer. You should know how your agent talks about you. You should work at an agency to see how you want your reps to handle you. You want to know who's important, who's not important, why. How are these people dealing with these deals? How are they representing their clients? Yes, it is not the most glamorous job in the world. It is not the most fun job in the world. But you will learn so much. You also get to read a lot of material that will probably make your writing better.
Sorry, go ahead.
As somebody who started at an agency right after graduation, I can say it was single-handedly the best decision I made for my career because of those reasons. I came in, I had a big learning curve. I knew absolutely nothing about this industry. I couldn't even hold a conversation. I couldn't name drop anybody. It was so bad, I would just leave events. I was not useful at all. Working at an agency teaches you the system of Hollywood. As soon as you learn the system, you can manipulate it, and you can manipulate it in your favor. Plus, that next opportunity to get you into a writer's assistant, showrunner's assistant, whatever the next role may be as your career, it becomes a lot easier because the networking out becomes easier. Once you're an assistant at a company, you're now locked into your generation, and everybody starts to know everyone, and everyone rises together. They get new jobs together. So it plugs you directly into that pool.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with like all of that. And if there's any actors here, like kind of similarly, like working in casting, like, it's such a great place, like reading and like, just seeing how, these decisions are made and being in the room to see how they're made. It's valuable for sure.
Yeah. All right. I'll add to that because I 100% agree with everything y'all said. Look at it from this perspective. It has never been harder to get staffed. For every show, there's maybe one half staff writer job. There's 300 to 700 submissions for that one job. Scary. But, it's still possible. But how do you get that job? You get it through an insider track. How do you get the insider track? Let's work backwards. Well, one path is to win a studio fellowship. So that's kind of something else, right? Aside from that, it's becoming a showrunner's assistant, a writer's assistant, or a script coordinator. Well, how do you get those jobs, right? There's hundreds of people applying for those jobs. You know someone. How do you know someone? You work at an agency, right? You're an assistant. Your boss reps them. That's how you get the job, right? The other path is to work in physical production, start as a PA, work in post, network through that way. But I do think the single best path to making it as a TV writer is starting in a mailroom agency.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Can I take this out?
First one to take it out. Yep, great.
All right, great.
Are you a stand-up comic, sir?
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm here with Ryan with Seeking Sasquatch. Thank you guys again for your time. There's a lot of valuable insight. My question is, assuming you liked our material and us, and we came to you with partial financing, what would the next steps be for packaging, for finding additional financing, making up that deficit, and so on? If anyone?
I would say there's like a couple of different like routes that you could take it. I think there's two paths you can maybe do at the same time, which is like saying we have this financing and like we'd like to, you know, approach other potential partners. Like, would you like to like make up for the other part? Or it's also kind of seeing, okay, what talent can we maybe attach or other elements that we can attach with this like with this financing. Like we have this now, but with your attachment, we're hoping to like potentially get more sort of thing. So it can like open up more conversations. That's how I've kind of done it like in the past when I've had projects that had some partial financing.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly correct. So basically you use the financing that you have as leverage to then get attachments. The other thing that you're looking to do is right now, and this is sort of how you have to think about building your movie when you make your first movie or your first project, is the industry looks at you and goes, okay, I don't know anything about you. You've never made anything before. You're an unknown factor. I need data points that will help me understand that this is a valuable property that I should finance, that I should produce, that I should distribute, etc. So how do you do that? You have to surround yourself with other valuable data points. So that might mean a known production company, a known actor, usually many of these at the same time. Many of you, also this is just a general note for the room, will come up in school, in your young career, and make friends with other people in there, and you might go, oh, directing for the first time is really hard. I want people to be around me who I trust and who make me feel more comfortable. I should hire my best friend to be my producer. Sure, but they're not going to be your producer in the sense that you need a production company that is like, you know, made at least like a couple things and been really good at it. So yes, you can absolutely have that collaborator that makes you a better person and makes you creative and makes you feel less anxious, whatever it is that you need, but they're not your producer, if that makes sense. Just know that going in.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nice,
I'll tell
thank
you, the clock is below 4 minutes now. So we'll probably end it after you, sir. So just thank you for your questions. We'll just take these remaining ones. Hi.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mai, fellow Canadian here. I'm a writer, director, and producer. And my question is around the protocol of querying on behalf of other collaborators. So if I have a project that I'm working on, but they're the writer, is that an option to email you folks, or should I be like, hey, you need to email them and hopefully I can come on board?
So you're only producing, you're not directing this?
Some of them I have a co-writer too, and the others they might be directing.
Okay, but you're producing all of these?
Yes.
Okay, so your job as a producer is to pick up the phone. That is your job.
Okay.
Your job is to call people. Your job is to get things. Your job is to source things. That is literally your job. So if you're putting together a project and you're like, hey, we have the X, Y, and Z, and we need financing, we need packaging, whatever, yeah, you can absolutely call any of the indie finance groups at any of the agencies and say, hey, you don't rep us, but we're putting this together. Do you want to take a look?
Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you.
Wait, also one quick thing. If there was like somebody that you worked with that you really loved, like I've gotten like things from producers to be like, oh, like this writer was really great or this director is really great, and a producer that I kind of am familiar with, but that's totally great as well. Like you can be like their reference in a way and open a door for them, which could potentially open a door for yourself. So yeah.
Wonderful. Hi.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike, I'm a writer director. Thank you all for this. For a first-time filmmaker, what do you guys think when a first-time filmmaker is approaching you, and let's say they haven't gotten into, you know, a major festival, maybe they've done festival runs but haven't done any of the big ones, or maybe haven't done a lab that are well known. What do you think that a director has to have under their belt as a first-time director to be really taken seriously? Do they have to just, is it the material can be the selling point in and of itself and their personalities, or do you think that they have had to have done a certain amount of things to kind of be at that stage to make the next step in their career?
Yeah, I'm very cognizant of the fact that I think the number is 0.4% of the shorts applied to for Sundance get in.
Yeah.
So I don't care if the short didn't get into Sundance. But the quality of the work right, from the sample, from the short, and having a script, to your earlier point, Olivia. Those are really important, and that's what you should lean on. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
That being said, this is general. You can sit down. It's okay. If you guys have made a feature film and you're submitting it to festivals and you don't have a sales agent, do not wait until the movie has already premiered to ask for a sales agent. Call one of the agencies and say, hey, we're starting to submit to festivals. We're interested in getting someone to help us sell it to a distributor. Are you interested? Do it before it premieres, not afterwards.
Hi, everyone. I had a documentary hybrid film at Tribeca last year, and my background is in documentary. I'm mid-career and starting to do fiction.
Fuck
and
yeah.
Just curious, what's that?
Good job.
Thank you. I guess I'm just curious, is that a difficult narrative for you guys to have a doc filmmaker is now doing fiction, even if the fiction looks wildly different? It's not like there's a narrative thread from the doc.
No. I mean, I think if the talent is there, if it's you're able to showcase a strong fictional storyline, and in the same way that you have been able to do as a documentary filmmaker, I don't think there's the crossover is fine. I think it's just it's upon us to see what is the best route to position you in the fiction space. I know docs are really hard right now, so
yes.
so yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll give you one piece of advice though, in terms of just an added tool in the toolbox that could help you: a good lookbook. I think your body of work will ultimately get you in the room, but a good lookbook, or of course proof of concept short, will go a long way towards articulating the vision for you as a fictional filmmaker.
Just a quick follow-up. I did get an agent at CAA off of it.
Nice. Congrats.
In documentary, but my interest in fiction is growing and growing and growing. Should I seek out a fiction rep at CAA? I kind of want a more intimate manager type person. What do I do?
Have you talked to your doc agent yet?
I haven't quite articulated this particular thing. We're still trying to work on getting me more jobs in doc, and so our conversations are all around that. But because it was a hybrid, I worked with actors. It felt like a fiction film. He's aware and introducing me, sending me on generals with people with production companies that do both, and that's kind of our strategy. But he's got a lot of people that are more important than me.
I think talking to him is going to be your first step, because he can get you either a manager on the fiction side or somebody at CAA on the fiction side, film or TV. He'd be able to facilitate, he or she would be able to facilitate that for you. I think the first step is just having that conversation and saying, this is where I see my career going. How can you aid and support me in that?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you to our wonderful panelists.